We're live.
All right, we are live. So,
Yes.
everybody, I am Katab Rollins with NJPAC, and welcome to Backstage. I am here with the 2018 winner of the Sarah Vaughan vocal competition, Laurin Talese. Hey,
Hello. How are you?
I'm so good. I'm really excited to talk to you and get to know you, as well as our audience.
Thank
So,
you.
what's on your mind? How was your day
What's
today?
on my mind? What's on my mind is I'm looking forward to this heat wave dying down. I'm a
Really?
yes, I'm a winter girl. I love cold weather. I love the fall. I love sweaters and all that stuff. I like the bright sunshine, but the heat I could do without. So looking forward to that. That's been on my mind, just the heat.
Where are you?
And music, of course.
Of course. Where are you based at?
I'm in Philadelphia.
You're in Philly. Okay.
Yes, Philly.
What made you smile today?
What made me smile today? I
Mhm.
have a little Siamese kitten. She made me smile today. My partner made me smile today. Um, Anything makes me smile. Online makes me smile. Interacting with my fans makes me smile, and I've been interacting with them on Instagram today.
Yay.
Yeah, I'm grateful to be here and to be talking to you right now. So that's making me smile too.
Yay. Yay. So let's kind of jump into our conversation.
Mhm.
Um, so you're originally from Ohio, right?
Yes, yes,
Um,
I am.
did you grow up always singing?
For as long as I can remember, for the most part, my earliest memories singing was probably 7 years old. I grew up listening to my family sing. My dad and his brother sing. My aunt sing on his side, and like every weekend, my dad and his friends and a couple of his brothers would all like gather in my dining room and sing quartet style. And I'd always try to like sneak in and sing the part one of my uncles was missing. So like I remember just always being around music, and that's probably around the age when my dad and my mom really kind of were like, okay, she's kind of good at this. So
Is everybody in your family a jazz artist?
no, no, not actually. I have a lot of artists in my family, visual artists and some singers, but no one is a jazz singer or a jazz artist.
So if your dad and folks would be in the house like singing, would you like join in? Would you guys have family concerts?
No, but I would try to join in, and I was so little, and they were like just having their like after work, grown up time, and I was just like, let me sing. This is such a magical experience. I love when you guys come over. I love when all of you sing together. Let me be a part. And one day, they heard me because I would like be so, just la. So finally, they heard me. But and then they started putting me in different little troops and choirs and that sort of thing.
Hmm.
But I was always singing around the house. I was always trying to. My brothers don't sing. I have a baby sister who came along much later, but I would always be trying to put them together. Okay, you sing this part, you sing this part, and I'll sing lead
Of
type
course,
of
you can leave.
thing.
Yes, good.
Here I am. So
Um,
yeah.
were you like in the chorus in high school? And when did you start getting out there to be known as like a singer?
So like I said, I began in troops. I
Mhm.
would sing it. I had a little stint in this organization called the Singing Angels in Cleveland. I was about 8 when I started in that. And then from there, I went to a community choir. And then from the community choir, when I was in about fourth or fifth grade, I auditioned for a performing arts high school. And that's when I kind of really um, started to develop my solo sound. Before that, I didn't know what it was. I didn't know. I knew I loved to sing, but I didn't know what my voice was.
Mhm.
And so the high school I went to actually is from fourth grade to 12th grade.
Mhm.
And so I got there in the fifth grade, and I had all the way up until the ninth grade just to listen to the upperclassmen and to kind of soak in the music that was going on. And there was this ensemble called the Jazz Art Ensemble, led by one of my mentors, Mr. Dr. William Woods. And it was in that ensemble that I discovered Lambert Hendrickson Ross and Nina Simone and Nastru Gilberto and Sarah Vaughan. And so that's when I started feeling like when I was learning those songs, I was like, okay, I like this. I love practicing this. I love shedding to this. I love learning these solos. I think this might be my voice, you know? And it started really inspiring me to, at 15 years old, just kind of flush that kind of stuff out. And so, yeah, I would say around that time was when I started finding myself having solos and that sort of thing. But before that, no.
Did you always immerse yourself in jazz, or were you, yeah, like did you always immerse yourself in jazz, or kind of just pop music? Like, how's your journey been shaped in music?
So I grew up idolizing the first voices that I heard, female voices especially, were like Anita Baker. My dad loved her. My dad loved the Winans. My dad loves Marvin Gaye. He loves Curtis Mayfield. And he's always playing this music. He was the guy who ran the sound system at home. So growing up, that's what I heard on the radio. And then later when I turned 10, I think it was, Mariah Carey came out.
We're the same age. We're the same age then.
Yeah. I'm a kid. I grew up in the 90s.
Yep.
And her first CD, her first tape came out when I was 10 years old. Her tape. And I was just in awe. I loved 90s Mariah Carey. She was my everything. So I actually, when I auditioned for Cleveland School of the Arts, I auditioned with Hero. So, I was like a super fan. So yeah.
What is it about jazz that draws you in? Why jazz?
Why jazz?
Why jazz?
There's something about it. Could be I have an old soul. It could be that I'm just a very sentimental person, but the melodies and the lyrics and just the overall classic vibes of jazz is something that always drew me in. I always loved old Hollywood films and the film scores by like Nelson Riddle and Quincy Jones and that kind of stuff always intrigued me. I always was fascinated by looking at like old Hollywood pictures, the black and whites and that sort of thing. So that's when I first became aware of jazz. I wasn't singing it yet, but that's when I first became aware of it, listening to those soundtracks for those movies, watching those movies. But later, I think the meatiness of those melody lines and the lush orchestrations behind some of those tried and true standards is what drew me in. I just felt like I wanted to be washed in all of it. It was an experience. I immediately felt transported when I heard some of those old jazz standards, and you know, the Ella, the Chet Baker Sings, the Sarah Vaughan, the Nancy Wilson, all that stuff. I just was immediately like, what if I was on a film set? What if I was walking down the street and a bird landed on my shoulder? I just was enthralled and enchanted by jazz. I really was, and I still am.
I see. I love it. So so let's jump right. You're like 17 years old. You're a junior in high school, and you got to start thinking about college. What did you major in? You majored in music, right?
Yes, and jazz vocal performance. And I graduated at 17, and at 16 I was actually, well, first of all, I wanted to like explore the world for as long as I could remember. I love reading, and books always alerted me to the fact that there was a whole world outside my window, outside Cleveland, Ohio. And so even though I didn't have, growing up in the early, the late 90s, early 2000s, you didn't have smartphones. So it wasn't like you could just go online and see what somebody's doing in Italy. Like you had to read about it. And I was like so moved by the fact that I could possibly see the world. And so I had been researching colleges outside of Cleveland probably since the 9th or 10th grade, since 14 or 15 years old, because I just was like, okay, I spent a lot of years in Cleveland. I want to see the rest of the world. And I don't know if I'll have enough time. I just was that kid. So I started looking at schools in New Mexico and New England and New York and Boston. And one day when I was in the 11th grade, a representative from the admissions team at the University of the Arts traveled from Philadelphia to Cleveland. And they rolled the little TV on the stand with the little VHS player on there, rolled it into the library. And all of us music students at the school came in to hear the spiel. And as soon as they put the tape in, I was like, oh, that's where I'm going. I love Philadelphia because they showed the Avenue of the Arts and the graffiti and the murals and the dancers and the singers and the visual artists and all this stuff. So I saved up my little money from McDonald's where I was working at the time and purchased a Greyhound ticket and came all the way to Philly from Cleveland. Got here and was immediately like, oh my God, I've arrived. Nervous as heck. I auditioned for University of the Arts. Got in, thank God. They sent a letter to me because we didn't get those, like, you know, emails. It was, you had to wait for the letter to come in the mail. And when it did, I just was like, I'm going. And it was hard, but I figured out a way to get here to Philadelphia. And so 17 turning 18, that's when I moved to Philly. And I've been here ever since. And it's just been lovely.
So you did school in Philly. So you studied voice in school, right?
Mm-hmm.
What was your life like then? So I know you had to sing in school, but were you part of, like, did you like gig around town? Like, did you sing at clubs while you were not in class? Like, what was that like during your college years?
My college life was chaotic, but in the most beautiful way. It was gorgeous chaos.
I love that. Yeah, good segue.
No, it really was. Like, I worked, first of all, I worked all through school. So in the mornings, I would open Starbucks. Mm-hmm. And then, and that's after I worked at a sneaker store called City Blue. And after I worked at Foot Locker, and after I worked at a slew of other places, I kind of like found my footing because I knew I was going to have to work when I came to school. Mm-hmm. And so I would open Starbucks in the morning, go to class, and then I would do something like a little work study, like internship type of thing at school. Mm-hmm. And then I would go back to my dorm or go back to my apartment, whichever it was during those 4 years. And after school, I would go down the street. And that's the thing, University of the Arts, for those who are watching who don't know, is right on the Avenue of the Arts. So all your jazz clubs are within walking distance. All your music venues are within walking distance. Anything you could possibly want to do, you could find in Center City, Philadelphia. So I walked down the street to a venue called Zanzibar Blue, and myself and pretty much all the musicians on my debut album would play together starting in about 2000, 2001. Like, we literally were just playing and having fun. And I didn't know what I was doing, but some of everybody came through these clubs because at that time, I'm seeing comments. Hi, Kiana. At that time, it was 2000s, the early 2000s in Philly. And I mean, for those who don't know, like, that was like the heart of like the neo soul time and like just music. If you heard good music or if you heard a good band, they were from Philly, period.
That was the Bilal and the Vivian Green and that time, like.
So I'm going to get to that. So I went to college the first day of orientation. He may not remember, but the first day of orientation, there was this guy cracking jokes and just being funny, and his name was Adam Blackstone. And so he and I were in the same freshman class, and Adam Blackstone, for those who don't know, is like super music director.
Musical director that everybody goes to.
Rihanna, Jay-Z, Justin Timberlake, the list goes on. But back then, he was a freshman like me, and congrats to him, by the way, because he was nominated for, I believe, a Daytime Emmy or Emmy for the Super Bowl because he was a music director at the last Super Bowl. So these are the folks that I went to college with and that I'm like making music with every day. And so at some point we form a band. I'll tell you one story about a club that I performed at. So we form a band. It's myself, my friend Monet, Adam, a friend Montique, and we're doing my original tunes. I get a gig at this club called the 5 Spot, which was the best club you could go to. There was a series ran by The Roots. Every Tuesday night in Old City, they would have, you never knew who would come through. Bilal walked through there, and that's how I got a gig singing background with him and touring with him while I was in school. Like, Vivian Green or Jill or whoever, like all these amazing artists just were walking in any given Tuesday, get on the mic, do their thing. So I have a gig. I have my first show. They finally let me perform in there. This girl from Cleveland, that nobody knows. And I sing a couple songs, and then somebody says, "I'm sorry, you have to get off stage. Alicia Keys is here." And I was like,
Oh.
okay, I'll get off the stage. And then fast forward to 2017 Grammys, Adam calls me. He's like, "Hey, I'm doing a spot with Alicia Keys and Maren Morris. Do you want to, do some background vocals for it?" And I'm like, "Yeah." So all these years later, I meet her in 2002 and I meet her again in 2017. So it's just pretty crazy. But along the way, while I was in school, I was touring with Bilal. I was touring with this singer out of Germany named Joy Denalani. It was just a weird mix of doing senior recitals and junior recitals, singing jazz standards, but also cutting my teeth singing pop songs and whatever the popular music was. Yes,
So,
Jamal. Me too.
So that's my best friend. One of
Hi,
them.
bestie.
So you, if we're the same age, and you graduated college in like the early 2000s, right?
2004.
So what was your life like? When you graduated, you have your degree in music in classical and jazz voice. How did you sustain yourself?
So I was like a musician for hire. I was a background vocalist for hire. Somebody would say, "We need somebody to tour Germany for 2 months or for Ashanti or whoever." And I would do it. I would learn the music and go. And in between time, I would save my little money so I could pay my rent and do temp gigs for university. And at some point in the 2000s, the mid to late 2000s, stuff just started changing. Around 2008, 2007-ish. And Napster came out, like just a lot of stuff that kind of threw a wrench in money making for some artists. Tours got canceled, and I was just like, what am I gonna do? So I went to work in academia for like 10 years, and that's how I sustained myself. And I 2017 was the year that I was liberated, so I'll never forget that year. But and I'm grateful for those 10 years because I met some amazing people. But I've been a full-time musician for the last it'll be 3 years in November. So isn't that crazy? So crazy.
That's fantastic. So you've been like your voice and your talent has taken you all around the world with like many artists. Since we're backstage, I'd love to know like a really fun story from a tour.
Really fun story.
Something that stands out.
So the last thing that stands out to me, and I'm so glad it happened so close to this quarantine. I was actually on tour. I represented the U.S. as a cultural ambassador with American Music Abroad. And their whole purpose is, and this is the same program that sent Louis Armstrong to Egypt and all these places. It's a long-term program spanning decades. They just changed the name. And they specifically sent me to areas of the world where it was like 97% white. Like they've never seen anybody that looks like me on TV or in real life. And I was excited to go. So they sent me to Montenegro. They sent me to some cities in Montenegro. They sent me to some cities in Poland. And they sent me to some cities in Ukraine. And most of the cities were very rural. They weren't like your major cities except for a couple of them. And so I walked into it like, who knows how they'll receive me, but I'll keep it really, easy for them. I'll sing all American songbook tunes and, just make sure it's something that they can sing along with type of thing. And a couple days before I got there, my first city was Plevia, I believe, in Montenegro. They were promoting my concert, and they still promote amazingly in Europe. Like my posters are everywhere, and there's all these videos everywhere on Instagram. And they were playing my original music, like the videos that I made, the songs that I wrote myself that are from my album. And it just surprised me because I'm like, okay, they resonate with this. So I guess we could change our set. So change our set. I'm singing in one of the shows in Ukraine, in Dubrovnik, I think. I'm singing this song called This Love. I'm gearing up to sing it. And I'm looking out into the audience, but I feel movement from my band behind me. And I look down, and there is a 3-year-old toddler on the stage with me with a big bouquet of roses and all kinds of different flowers. And she reaches up to give them to me, and I just was like, oh my gosh. So I reached down to hug her, and she wouldn't let me go.
Oh,
So she
I'm
put
so
her
cool.
little hands around my neck, and so I just sang the song with her on my hip the whole time, and that was our last song for the night. I'll never forget that.
That's such a
And
beautiful story.
thank you. I just was
Love
like, okay,
that.
that was like in October, and then
So, all right.
few months later, that happened.
So all right. We're in COVID life. We're living
Hello, COVID.
a whole new thing, right? So, and like live performance just ain't happening right now. So how are you adjusting creatively to our COVID life?
So I am the type of person, when I travel, I am seeking external stimulants. I want to go to the coffee shop and talk to the locals in whatever broken English they have or whatever broken Ukrainian I have, and learn about where to go in the city. And I'm like constantly pulling from the things I'm seeing and feeling. And for the first few weeks of this whole pandemic and the quarantine being shut in, especially in March when it first hit, I just felt sad. First of all my dates that I worked really hard to get, that my team worked really hard to get, were wiped off my calendar. And I just felt completely, I just was done. Honestly, I just felt like, what in the world do I do? So I let that time pass. I let myself feel that. And then after a while, I was like, okay, what can I do in my own town to get that feeling, to be stimulated, to be inspired? And so Philadelphia and Pennsylvania in general has a very diverse and very robust park system. So I would go to trails and be in nature and write in nature, and that's been awesome. And I live in an area where there's a lot of secluded areas of this park system. So you would never find me wherever I am unless I wanted you to know exactly where I was. So I didn't have to interface with people. I didn't have to be unsafe. I didn't have to like come in contact with potential COVID carriers or anything. And I didn't have to endanger anybody else. And that was great. And I also,
are you outside of Philly? Are you in Philly proper or are you outside of Philly?
I am in Philly proper, but I'm really close to Chestnut Hill.
Okay.
So if you know, like that area is very green. And so I did that. I started teaching myself Logic, learning how to record myself at home, which has been awesome because I need to learn how to record myself anyway. And I've been taking language lessons. I started off with French. I had already started French some years prior, and I kind of got back to that. And now I'm studying Portuguese and completely immersing myself in Brazilian Portuguese in the culture, like watching the shows, Brazilian shows on Netflix, just going all over. So that's been really helpful. And just reading a lot, because reading for me is how I kind of allow myself to fantasize and come up with the lyrics that I do. So that's been a lot of what I'm doing.
What's your take on all the virtual performing that artists are doing right now? Have you done something? Have you done them?
Yes, I did a few. I did one specifically that I really, really loved, called Acts for Music. And it's actually still available online, I think through the middle of August. But anyway, I was able to curate a concert where I performed myself, and then I called some of my friends, this artist named Mickey Miller, another artist, I called my friend Vivian Green, and I called another artist named Amber Navrin, who actually is in Moonchild. And we all did our own shows. It was called Fabulous Formidable Female, and we performed for 30 minutes straight in live and direct, like we're talking right now.
Yeah.
And it was fabulous. I love seeing how everybody is reinventing themselves and being creative. I love when it's really intimate and you can kind of see somebody's process, you know, in their house as they're creating music, as they're preparing for albums. I love that we have that, and we have people able to be at home spending that time showing you their process. I miss that live connection though. There's nothing like it. I can watch something online, but you know,
It's
to
not the
actually
same.
see my faves in person, I can't wait till I could do that again. And I can't wait till I could like actually reach out and touch somebody in an audience, you know? I mean, it might be a little while before
We'll
we
have
get
this
there,
soon,
but
though. I can't believe we only have a few minutes left. I like want to talk to you for like hours more. Have so much more to
me
talk
too.
about.
This is so
Okay,
awesome. This is
okay,
so
okay,
awesome.
okay, 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 okay. So, like I said, like we know, you are the 2018 winner of the Sarah Vaughan vocal competition.
Mm-hmm.
What was that like? How did you find out about it? Why did you enter? Like, what was that experience like?
So I'd known about it for a while. It was on my radar, and a few of my friends actually had won, and I thought it was the best thing. But I wasn't like so hyped to be in a competition. I just was like, "Oh, that's great! I'm so excited for them. Very nice. Can't wait to see who's next year." Um, and so I just like scrolling in my email, and actually Michelle, member of
Your
my
manager,
team,
right?
Michelle. Shout out to Michelle,
Hey,
my
Michelle.
partner. She was like, "Are you entering this?" And I was just like, "Let me think about it. I don't know," because competitions always gave me the heebie-jeebies, honestly. So I just was like, I don't know. So I submitted. I ended up submitting, and I was absolutely shocked when I was told that they had chosen me as one of the 5 finalists. So
Mhm.
amazing. So that's how I found out about it.
So, the competition, we're taking submissions. What would you tell? What can you offer to the folks that are out there that are on the fence about applying, that are interested in that experience? What would you offer from your experience in the competition?
I would say one, what I learned was, and I'm so glad she pushed me to actually be a part of it, because I would have talked myself out of a great experience.
Mm-hmm.
The entire experience of even being a part of it and even submitting is something that is so valuable. You learn so much in that. So I would say, first of all, don't talk yourself out of it. Do it. Second of all, I would say be yourself. Submit the things that you think really illustrate how fabulous you are. And
Mm-hmm.
should you be chosen, perform like it's your favorite show ever and you're preparing for the best show. Don't look at it like, oh my God, I gotta be better than this person or I gotta do this. Just be yourself and be the best version of yourself ever. That's what I would say. But apply for sure.
I love that. Yeah. And as you see, folks, you can apply at sarahvaughancompetition.com until September 8th. So I still have you. I still got a few more minutes with you.
Oh, good. I thought we were ending. When I saw that red
No,
at the
no,
bottom, I was like,
no,
oh,
no,
no.
no,
Yes.
no, no, no. I'm gonna milk every second of this.
Okay.
So what are you up to now? Like, what do you have coming up? What are you up to? What are you planning?
So I am planning to release a record in the spring of 2021. So right now I'm in pre-production. I am writing. I'm preparing to go into the studio soon. So I'm just super excited about that. I'm all revved up. I've had a lot of time to think on my life during this quarantine. Nothing but time to like reflect and think about what I want to say.
Yeah.
And I thought I knew what I wanted to say beforehand. Hi, Prince Derek, doll. I thought I knew what I wanted to say beforehand, but now I got some other things I need to get out. You know, you push so many experiences and you push so many thoughts to the back as you're navigating life.
Right.
And then good or bad. And then when you settle and you're quiet for a second, it's like everything starts coming to the forefront. That's why quiet is so necessary. This time has really shown me you need to make this kind of time when you're moving and shaking again.
Yeah. That's, I can definitely talk about some good outcomes of being in this kind of life right now that have been really like self-introspective and like we've been running for our adult life, running. And now we're forced to stop and chill for a minute. So, all right. So before we wrap up, if you were going to tell me 3 jazz artists that I need to know, either from the past, the current, or whatever, who would they be?
Woo! This is a
Mm-hmm.
question.
Just throw them out. Three.
3, Nancy Wilson, even though she's a song stylist. She sang some of everything, and I love that about her. Oscar Peterson.
Okay.
And who would be the third person? I love so many people, but a project that I'm really digging that really spoke to me this past year was Jasmine Horns, who happens to be a former, well, she's a
Another one of
year
your
winner.
peers.
She's so dope. So you have to know about her as well.
So, Laurin, I have had the best time talking to you. I'm going to have to find your information behind the scenes because I got to keep this going.
Yes, you do. I would love that.
Conversation, right? So, audience, thank you guys for tuning in. This interview is part of the TV James Moody Jazz Festival at NJPAC. This year's competition will be held on November 22nd. And for those who want to apply, you can go to njpac.org for more information and apply what you see in the lower third. It's been a joy talking to you, Laurin.
Guys, it's been a joy talking to you too.
And we'll see you in 2 weeks, everybody.
Thank you for having me.